Hey everyone, a lot of us are out here trying to build a solid financial future, right? For ourselves and our families. That feeling of independence, when you're secure, not beholden to anyone.
It's huge.
It is, and it feels even more important these days, when it feels like the whole world's pushing you in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So today we're going deep on this book, The Debt Trap, a guide to escaping financial bondage.
Okay.
And this book, it gets into how debt really works, the mechanics of it, but it also digs into how debt messes with your head,
Yeah.
especially for men.
Right.
Right off the bat, it hits you with this stat. Over 60% of Americans say they just don't get financing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty big red flag, right?
Huge. Yeah.
So the big question is, can we break free from this debt trap and actually achieve real financial freedom?
That's the goal.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
What's fascinating to me is how the book goes beyond just the numbers. It really dives into the emotional weight of debt, the stress,
Yeah.
the anxiety, how you can chip away at your self-esteem.
It's powerful stuff. The author uses the term financial bondage.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a pretty striking way to describe that feeling of being trapped, right?
Yeah, that financial bondage idea, that really
Yeah.
stuck with me. It's like being chained to your debts.
Yeah.
You're not just owing money, you're carrying this constant worry, this weight, maybe even feeling like you're failing your family because of it. It's heavy stuff.
It is. And to understand how deep this goes, the book points out this insane figure. $164 trillion in global debt.
Trillion with a two.
Trillion with a T.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to even wrap your head around a number that big.
Yeah, no kidding.
It really shows how pervasive debt is. It's not just a personal problem, it's country, it's entire systems. It's this whole web of high interest rates, this societal pressure to spend, and that lack of financial education that we were just talking about. It all adds up to make this debt trap feel inescapable. For a lot of people.
Okay, so let's talk about something the book focuses on. The pressure on men to be the provider.
Yeah.
The one who's supposed to bring home the bacon, protect the family, be financially solid. It's a classic expectation, but is it actually helpful?
That's a great question. And it's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The book argues that this pressure can actually backfire. Men might feel forced to keep up appearances, right? Buy that new car, take on more debt just to look like they've got it all figured out.
It's like a facade.
It is. And the thing is, this whole idea of what a man should be, this sometimes toxic masculinity, can actually prevent men from reaching out for help when they're drowning in debt.
Right.
It's like they're supposed to just tough it out alone, which can be incredibly isolating.
Absolutely. There's a story in the book about John,
Yeah.
a father of two.
Okay.
He's buried in debt after a medical emergence. His wife can't work because of it. He feels this enormous pressure to be the strong one, the one to handle it all himself.
Yeah.
But the stress is just eating away at him. Anxiety, isolation, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I remember that story.
It really paints a picture of how this pressure can impact a man's life in every way.
John's story raises a crucial question. What's the price of this silence? The book argues that financial stress on men is often a silent crisis. It can lead to depression, substance abuse, even suicide. It's a wake-up call. We need to break down these stereotypes and create space for men to talk about their financial struggles openly and honestly.
So if we're feeling stuck in this debt trap, what's the way out? The book seems to put a lot of emphasis on financial literacy as being the key. Is that really the answer?
It's a huge part of it, for sure.
Yeah.
Financial literacy means understanding how money works, how those interest rates can turn a small debt into a monster, and how to make smart decisions with your money.
So it's about taking control instead of feeling control.
Exactly, that's the heart of it.
Right. But what does that actually look like in practice? Does the book give any concrete advice on how to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It lays out some very practical steps, like creating a budget that works for you, not against you. It also talks about diversifying your investments so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, and building an emergency fund to cushion the blow when those unexpected expenses inevitably hit. It's all about building a solid financial foundation.
So it's not just about knowing the theory. It's about actually having the tools and strategies to put it into practice.
Exactly.
Okay,
That
makes
does.
sense. And what I find really interesting is that the book doesn't just focus on individual action. It also talks about men supporting each other.
Right.
Like Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University
Yeah.
or the group Financial Fitness. These are places where men can come together, share their experiences, and hold each other accountable. It's about building a community of support and empowerment.
It is. That's such a powerful idea that we can achieve more together than we can alone.
Totally. It's about shifting the narrative from competition to collaboration, from isolation to connection. It's about men realizing they're not alone in this fight, and that by working together, they can actually break free from this debt trap and achieve true financial freedom.
Absolutely. And that's where the real power lies.
So far, we've been talking about the impact of debt on individuals.
Yeah.
But the book also explores how it can really damage relationships.
Yeah.
I imagine financial stress can be a real strain on a partnership.
Absolutely. It can be one of the biggest challenges a couple faces.
Right.
One of the most striking examples in the book is the story of John and Sarah,
Oh, yeah. I remember them.
a couple whose marriage is on the rocks because of John's secret debt. It highlights how financial stress can lead to arguments, resentment, even divorce. The book really stresses the importance of open and honest communication, being transparent about your finances with your partner.
So it's not about hiding your financial mistakes or keeping secrets. It's about being upfront and honest from the get-go.
Exactly. It's about having those sometimes tough conversations about money, setting shared financial goals, and working together as a team to achieve them. It's about recognizing that financial problems affect both partners and that the solution lies in tackling them together, not in secrecy and blame.
This next part is something I think a lot of people might not be aware of: predatory lending. The book really exposes how vulnerable individuals can be targeted and trapped in these cycles of debt. It's pretty scary stuff.
It's alarming how these predatory lenders operate. The book gives specific examples of high interest rates, hidden fees, and how they often target people with low credit scores. It's a system that preys on people who are already struggling, making it even harder for them to get back on their feet.
It almost makes you wonder if the system is designed to keep people in debt.
It's a valid question, and that's why the book emphasizes knowing your rights as a consumer. It mentions specific laws like the Truth in Lending Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act that are designed to protect you from these predatory practices.
So it's about being proactive, educating yourself, and not being afraid to fight back.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have power as consumers and we don't have to be victims of these predatory practices.
Okay. We've been talking about personal debt, but the book also zooms out to look at the global debt landscape. That feels like a whole other level of
It
complexity.
is. And the book argues that debt isn't just a personal problem, it's a global one. It uses the example of Greece, a country whose economy was basically crippled by unsustainable debt. It's a cautionary tale about the consequences of overborrowing, not just for individuals, but for entire nations. It can lead to economic and social turmoil that impacts everyone.
Like a domino effect, right?
Right.
One country's debt crisis can trigger a chain reaction across the entire global economy.
That's right.
And the book makes the point that understanding this global context can actually help us make smarter decisions about our own finances. It's about seeing the bigger picture, realizing that our individual choices are part of a larger system. Responsible borrowing and lending aren't just good for our personal finances. They contribute to a healthier global economy for everyone.
Wow. That's a lot to take in. We've covered a lot of ground already, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this book. There's so much more to unpack.
There definitely is. And in our next segment, we'll delve into some of the specific strategies the book outlines for escaping the debt trap. We'll talk about budgeting techniques, the power of entrepreneurship building assets, and more. Stay tuned. It's going to get even more practical and empowering.
Sounds good. We'll be right back after a quick break. Welcome back. Last time we really dug into those emotional and societal pressures that can lead men into debt. You know, those expectations that can weigh so heavily on us.
Absolutely.
Now let's shift gears a bit and focus on solutions.
This book offers some really practical step-by-step strategies for taking back control of your finance. And that's what we're going to unpack today.
Sounds good.
What I appreciate about the book's approach is that it starts by helping you understand how debt actually works. You know, it's not about demonizing debt entirely. It's about seeing how those interest rates can quickly spiral out of control.
Right.
How a small loan can become a huge burden, and how the whole system can sometimes feel rigged against the average person.
It's like you're playing a game where the rules are constantly changing and you're never quite sure if you're winning or losing.
Yeah, exactly. So where do we start? What's the first move in this game of financial chess?
One of the foundational strategies the book advocates for is budgeting. You know, it's not about deprivation.
Okay.
It's about taking control, making conscious decisions about where your money goes, ensuring that you're not spending more than you earn.
Okay, budgeting, I get it. It's important. But I'll be honest, it doesn't exactly sound exciting.
Right.
It feels like a chore.
I hear you, but think of it this way. A budget isn't about restriction, it's about freedom.
Okay.
It gives you clarity on your financial situation so you can make choices that align with your values and your goals. The book actually frames budgeting as a form of empowerment. You know, when you know where your money's going, you can start to redirect it towards things that truly matter to you, whether that's paying off debt, saving for a house, or investing in your future.
So instead of feeling like my money is controlling me, I can control my money. I like that shift in perspective. It's like taking the reins.
Precisely. And the book doesn't just tell you to budget, it gives you very practical ways to actually do it.
Right.
It talks about tracking your expenses, finding areas where you can cut back without feeling deprived, and setting realistic financial goals that you can actually achieve.
The book also spends a good amount of time talking about entrepreneurship. It seems like a big fan of ditching the 9-to-5 and being your own boss.
What's interesting is that the book sees entrepreneurship as a path to financial independence. It's not just about making money, it's about taking control of your income, building something of your own and breaking free from the limitations of a traditional job.
I can definitely see the appeal of that. But let's be real, starting a business is risky, especially if you're already dealing with debt.
Of course, it's not a decision to be taken lightly.
Right.
But the book argues that with careful planning, financial literacy, and a healthy dose of grit entrepreneurship can be a powerful way to escape the debt trap and build real wealth. It's about creating your own opportunity.
So it's about weighing the risks and rewards, understanding the challenges, but recognizing that potential for entrepreneurship to be a game changer.
Exactly. And the book goes beyond just the financial aspects of entrepreneurship.
Okay.
It talks about the mindset shifts required, the importance of resilience, and embracing failure as a learning opportunity. It's about building a business, but it's also about building a stronger, more resilient.
It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Right.
Learning and growing along the way.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about another strategy the book highlights: building asset.
Okay.
It's about shifting your mindset from consumption to creation. Instead of just spending your money, you're making your money work for you.
Okay, building assets. What does that actually mean? Is this where we get into investing and stuff?
You got it. It's about investing in things that will grow in value over time, things that will generate passive income, and ultimately help you achieve financial freedom. The book talks about different asset classes, including real estate stocks, bonds, even precious metal. It's about creating a diversified portfolio that works for you.
So it's not just about hiding cash under the mattress. It's about putting your money to work. But this sounds like it requires some serious financial knowledge. What if you're not a Wall Street expert?
That's where continuous learning comes in. The book encourages readers to constantly be educating themselves.
Yeah.
Read books, take courses, seek advice from financial professionals. It's about understanding that financial literacy is a journey, not a destiny.
You're always learning, always growing. The book also mentions this idea of building wealth within communities. It's not just about individual success, it's about collective success.
This is a key point. The book argues that financial freedom isn't just a solo mission. It's about men supporting each other, pooling resources, investing in local businesses, and creating a culture of financial literacy and empowerment within their communities.
So it's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. We can achieve more when we work together.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our financial well-being is interconnected. By supporting each other, we can create a more prosperous future for everyone.
Okay, we talked about budgeting, entrepreneurship, building assets. What other strategies does the book recommend for escaping the debt trap?
One of the most important things the book emphasizes, and this might sound simple, is having a positive mindset.
Okay.
It's about believing in your ability to achieve financial freedom even when things feel tough. It's about knowing that setbacks are temporary and that with persistence and determination, you can overcome anything.
That's easier said than done, right? Especially when you're feeling buried under debt and financial stress.
Absolutely. But the book offers practical ways to cultivate a positive mindset, such as practicing gratitude, focusing on your strengths, and surrounding yourself with supportive people. It's about shifting your focus from what you lack to what you have and what you can achieve.
So it's about taking control of your thoughts, focusing on the positive, and believing in your ability to create a better financial future.
You got it. And don't forget the importance of having a support system. Find people who understand your struggles, who can offer encouragement, advice, and hold you accountable. Those connections can make a world of difference.
It's not just about the number, it's about the people. It's about human connection, support, and understanding.
Right, financial freedom isn't just about reaching a certain net worth. It's about living a life of purpose and meaning, surrounded by people who believe in you and support your journey.
Okay, so far we've discussed budgeting, entrepreneurship asset, building a positive mindset, and having a supportive network. What else should we add to our financial freedom toolkit?
The book talks a lot about the importance of financial transparency and communication in relationships. Open and honest conversations about money are essential for building trust, avoiding conflict, and achieving those shared financial goals as a couple.
So it's not just about having your own finances in order, it's about being on the same page as your partner.
Absolutely. The book encourages couples to have regular money dates where they can sit down and discuss their income, their expenses, their debts, and their goals. It's about setting shared financial goals and working together as a team to achieve them.
Communication is key, right? It's about being open and honest, even when it's uncomfortable.
Exactly. The book argues that financial problems often stem from a lack of communication, from secrets and hidden debts that can create resentment and distrust. By being open and honest with each other, couples can build a much stronger foundation for their relationship and their finances.
I think a lot of people might avoid those conversations just because they can be awkward or even lead to arguments.
I get it, but the book frames these conversations as an act of love and respect. It's about showing your partner that you trust them enough to be vulnerable, to share your financial struggles, and to work together to find solutions.
That's a great perspective. It's not about blame or judgment. It's about teamwork and support.
Right on. And the book offers tips for having those conversations, like setting a regular time to talk, being respectful of each other's opinions, and focusing on finding solutions together.
The book also talks about teaching financial literacy to our children.
Yeah.
That seems like such a crucial part of breaking that cycle of debt.
Absolutely. The book argues that financial education is one of the most valuable gifts we can give our kids. It's about equipping them with the knowledge and the skills they need to make informed financial decisions, avoid debt, and achieve financial independence.
It's about setting them up for success,
Right.
giving them the tools they need to navigate the financial world with confidence.
Exactly. And the book offers advice on how to have these conversations with kids, like starting early, using age-appropriate language, and making it fun and engaging.
So it's about integrating financial literacy into their education from a young age.
That's the idea. And it's not just about teaching them facts and figures. It's about instilling healthy financial habits and values, like saving, spending wisely, and avoiding debt.
This all sounds great, but I'm sure there are men out there who are listening and thinking, this is all well and good, but I'm already in debt. Is it really possible for me to escape this trap?
I understand that feeling. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you're facing a mountain of debt, but the book's message is one of hope and empowerment.
Huh.
It argues that no matter how much debt you have, it's possible to break free and achieve financial freedom.
But how? Where do you even begin when you're feeling so stuck?
The book outlines a very clear path. It starts with taking ownership of your situation. Acknowledge the problem, face your fears, and make a commitment to change.
That sounds like a big step, just acknowledging it and making that commitment.
It is. But the book emphasizes that it's the most important step. It's about taking responsibility for your choices and recognizing that you have the power to create a different future.
So it's about shifting from a mindset of victimhood to a mindset of empowerment.
Precisely. And the book provides practical steps to make that shift, like setting clear financial goals, creating a budget, and seeking professional help if needed.
So it's not about dwelling on past mistakes. It's about focusing on what you can do right now to change your financial future.
That's it. And remember, the book also stresses self-compassion. Everyone makes mistakes. Financial struggles are common. You're not alone in this.
That's a really important message, especially for men who might be struggling with shame or feeling inadequate because of their debt.
Absolutely. The book encourages men to be kind to themselves, forgive themselves for past mistakes, and focus on building a brighter future.
Now let's talk about something that I think a lot of men struggle with, asking for help. It can be really tough to admit you need help, especially when it comes to finances.
It's a great point. The book acknowledges that men are often conditioned to be independent and self-reliant, which can make it hard to reach out when they're struggling. But it argues that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
It's about recognizing that you don't have to go through this alone. There are people who can help, resources you can tap into.
Exactly. The book encourages men to reach out to their support system, seek advice from financial professionals, and utilize resources like debt counseling and credit counseling services.
So it's about breaking down those barriers and recognizing that there's no shame in asking for help when you need it.
Right. And the book also highlights the value of having a mentor, someone who has walked the path of financial freedom and can offer guidance and support along the way.
Having a mentor can provide advice, accountability, and encouragement, which can be incredibly valuable when you're trying to escape the debt trap.
Absolutely. The book gives some great advice on how to find a mentor and build that relationship.
Okay, we've covered a lot today. Budgeting, entrepreneurship, building assets, a positive mindset, communicating with your partner, teaching your kids about finances, asking for help, and finding a mentor. That's a lot to digest.
It is. But remember, the journey to financial freedom is a marathon, not a sprint. Take it one step at a time, celebrate your successes, learn from your mistakes, and never give up on your dream of a debt-free future.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
That's right. There are resources available, people who care, and a whole community of support waiting to embrace you.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
The role of traditional masculinity in all of this. I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle.
It absolutely is. The book argues that traditional notions of masculinity, those expectations that men should be the providers and breadwinners, can actually contribute to the debt trap.
It's like they're carrying this invisible weight, this pressure to be financially strong and independent no matter what.
Exactly. And the book argues that we need to challenge these outdated ideas of masculinity and create a more supportive environment where men feel comfortable talking about their financial struggles and seeking help when they need it.
So it's about recognizing that financial struggles aren't a sign of weakness, but a common human experience. We all go through ups and downs.
That's right. And it's about encouraging men to be vulnerable, share their struggles, and support each other on their journeys to financial freedom.
I love that. It's about breaking down those walls of isolation and building a community of support where men can be open and honest about their financial challenges and work together to find solutions.
Exactly. The book offers some practical tips for building that community, like joining support groups, finding a mentor, and simply being open and honest with the men in your life about your financial struggles.
This has been a really insightful discussion so far. We've covered so much ground, but I feel like there's still more to explore in the debt trap. What else will we be diving
In
into?
our next and final segment, we'll get into the legal side of debt consumer rights and the bigger picture of financial control in the world today. We'll also talk about self-care and the importance of resilience in overcoming financial challenges. It's going to be a fascinating and empowering conclusion to our deep dive.
I'm looking forward to it. See you next time. Welcome back to the deep dive. In this final part of our exploration of the debt trap, we're going to zoom out a bit and look at some of the bigger systems that can contribute to financial struggles, especially this idea of how the law and financial control kind of intersect. We'll also talk about some strategies for building resilience and navigating those mental and emotional challenges that often come with debt.
Yeah, this is where things get really eye-opening.
Right.
We've talked about personal responsibility, but the book also shines a light on how the system itself can sometimes feel rigged against us.
It's like you can be doing everything right, trying to be responsible, but there are these forces working against you. It can be really frustrating.
Absolutely. And one of the things the book digs into is predatory lending.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty sobering look at how certain lenders specifically target people who are already vulnerable. Maybe they have low credit scores or they haven't had access to good financial education. And these lenders use high interest rates, hidden fees, and confusing terms to trap people in these cycles of debt that can be incredibly difficult to escape.
It's like they're preying on people who are already struggling, making their situation even worse.
It is. And the book argues that this isn't just a moral issue, it's a systemic one. It points to the role of government regulations or the lack thereof in allowing these predatory practices to flourish.
So it's about understanding the laws and regulations that are supposed to protect us, but also how those systems can be manipulated or weakened, leaving people vulnerable to these predatory lenders.
Exactly. The book highlights specific laws, like the Truth in Lending Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, that are designed to protect consumers. But it also shows how those laws aren't always enough. They can be circumvented or weakened, and borrowers can be left at risk.
It can feel like a David versus Goliath situation sometimes.
Yeah.
How can the average person fight back against these powerful institutions?
It's a good question, and the book stresses the importance of knowing your rights as a consumer. It encourages readers to educate themselves about the laws, read the fine print before signing any financial agreements, and seek legal help if they believe they've been treated unfairly.
So it's about being informed, being proactive, and not being afraid to stand up for yourself, even when it feels intimidating.
Right. It's about recognizing that we have power as consumers, even in the face of systems that can feel rigged against us.
The book also dives into the global debt landscape, particularly the impact of debt on developing nations.
Right.
That feels like a whole other level of complexity.
It is. And the book uses the example of Greece, which was hit hard by a debt crisis, to illustrate the potential consequences of excessive borrowing. You know, it's not just about individual finances, it can destabilize entire societies.
It's like a domino effect, right?
Yeah.
One country's debt problems can trigger a chain reaction that impacts the global economy.
That's right. And the book argues that understanding this global context is crucial for making informed decisions about our own finance. It's about recognizing that our individual choices are connected to these larger economic forces. You know, responsible borrowing and lending aren't just good for our personal finance. They contribute to a more stable and prosperous future for everyone.
It's a reminder that we're all interconnected and our actions have consequences
Yeah.
beyond our own wallets.
Absolutely.
It's about seeing the bigger picture.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the psychological and emotional impact of debt. We've talked about the stress, the anxiety, the shame, the feelings of inadequacy that debt can trigger. But the book also offers strategies for building resilience and navigating those challenges.
That's so important. It's easy to get caught in a spiral of negativity and despair when you're struggling financially.
It is. You can feel like you're drowning.
Yeah.
And that's why the book emphasizes self-care, both physically and mentally. It encourages readers to take care of themselves, get enough sleep, eat healthy foods, engage in activities that bring joy and reduce stress.
It's about recognizing that taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's essential for being able to tackle those financial challenges effectively. You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Right. It's about building a strong foundation, physically and mentally, to help you weather the storm.
The book also talks about the importance of having a positive mindset. I know that can sound a little cheesy sometimes, But I think there's real power in it.
There is. It's huge. It's about choosing to see those challenges as opportunities for growth, focusing on your strengths, and believing in your ability to overcome those obstacles.
I imagine that's easier said than done when you're feeling trapped by debt.
It definitely takes effort and practice, but the book offers practical tips for cultivating a more positive mindset, like practicing gratitude, surrounding yourself with supportive people, and celebrating your wins no matter how small they may seem.
So it's about shifting your perspective, focusing on what you can control, and finding reasons to be optimistic even when things are tough.
Exactly. And remember, the book also stresses the importance of having a support system. It's about finding people who understand your struggles, who can offer encouragement and advice, and who can help you stay on track.
It's back to that idea that it's not just about the numbers. It's about the people. It's about connection, support, and
It's about living a life of purpose and meaning surrounded by people who support and uplift you.
well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the debt trap. A guide to escaping financial bondage. What a journey. We explored the psychology of debt, uncovered predatory lending practices, looked at the global debt landscape, and discovered strategies for building resilience and achieving financial freedom.
It's been a really insightful exploration, and I hope our listeners have gained some valuable knowledge and practical tools that they can apply to their own lives.
The key takeaway for me is that while the debt trap is a real and pervasive issue, it's not inescapable. There's hope, there are solutions, and there's a community of support waiting to embrace those who are ready to break free.
Absolutely. And remember that first step is often the hardest, but it's also the most empowering. Acknowledge the problem, take ownership of your financial situation, and make a commitment to change.
And if you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure where to start, reach out for help. There are resources available, people who care, and a path of financial freedom waiting to be discovered.
That's right. And if you're ready to dive deeper into the debt trap, a guide to escaping financial bondage, you can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, remember, you have the power to change your financial future.